Kaprizov has landed stateside. We've got outdoor NHL games to talk about, NWHL games to talk about, and Bardown Beauties jerseys. Plus, is the Tourney going to happen in 2021? LA scout Blake Bolden also joins us to tell us how she has managed to be such a kick-ass woman in hockey. All that and more in episode 51.
Hunters, fishermen, and Minnesota sports fans, new and old, locally owned and operated SodaStick offers the widest variety of gear and garb to dress you and your fandoms. Toss it back old school with Remember the Metrodome tee, or look sharp with any of their latest McGolden Light collaboration collection. Add that Bardown Beauties promo code at checkout for free shipping on all purchases. Hello, everybody. We're back, episode 51, recording on our normal Friday. Very exciting. I don't even want to ask you guys how you are because I would like to draw attention for our YouTube viewers to this beautiful jersey that I am wearing. Woo woo! Shout out to our presenting sponsor, SodaStick, for working with us on yet another amazing design, another amazing line, which will be released this week. You guys are listening to this on Monday. It will be released this week. So stay tuned to all of our social media channels, SodaStick channels, to get your hands on this beautiful Bardown Beauties uni. What do you think, Alexis?
Well, I think they're beautiful. I said before we started recording that the colors amazing, just even through the screen seeing them. I haven't seen them in person yet because the stuff goes to Jesse's house and then we steal it from her after it gets to her house.
I try to keep it all for myself, really, but then I have to share whatever. It's fine.
See, it's funny because I'm trying a new thing of like looking presentable for the podcast, and now you show up in a hockey jersey. I'm like, where did I miss the memo? I've been ready for that moment, and now I'm actually trying to like put makeup on and do the whole thing, and then Jesse shows up in a hockey jersey. So I got to get my hands on it quick.
I thought the same. You look gorgeous. Like, you look like you're ready just to go hit the town. It's beautiful. Whereas I'm like, I'm staying home, gonna watch.
There's no town to hit. I'm just hitting the inside of my apartment. That's all. So, but I do have to get that jersey as soon as possible. I'm excited for other people to get their hands on them as well. And a huge shout out to Landon and everyone at SodaStick who put those together for us. They look really slick.
Yeah, I mean, great usage of all of our logo colors. Really excited to get those in your guys' hands. So thanks again to Landon. We'll obviously do a big release launch. You'll see some sweet photos. You'll see some video. You know how we do it. We do it big. Speaking of jersey releases, I am in love with the Minnesota Whitecaps jersey. I know the NWHL had their own new jersey release. The Whitecaps are looking mighty sharp. Like, I am loving every Minnesota jersey release this year. Like, I think everyone has really been on point. I know we talked about the Wild last week, but I think the Whitecaps might have run away with it now with their new jersey.
I think they might have outdid them. Specifically, the white, the home jersey, the quote-unquote home jersey for the Whitecaps. That one was so cool. So and you guys know, if you tuned into the episode where we talked about the reverse retro Wild jersey, I wasn't a huge fan of that one. It was cool, but it wasn't the best thing I've ever seen. My jaw dropped when I saw the like little tree outline at the bottom of the Whitecaps jersey. I was like, that is so cool. I love that. And the all black one, as simple as it is, there's just something about how clean and like slick it looks. I'm like, wow, that looks just like powerful. It's kind of like the word that came to mind. So
imagine it on the ice. I thought
those are fantastic. Yeah,
I think the black on the ice is gonna look so good. Like,
it's gonna be cool. Yeah, so I'm very excited about them. I saw a lot of great feedback. People were loving them as well. So I'm very excited to see the players in them during the games, and the other jerseys that the teams were releasing as well in the NWHL were great. But yeah, the Whitecaps jersey, 10 out of 10 from me.
I would agree. I love it. Whitecaps, if you want to sauce us over one. I saw the Wild were saucing out some of their reverse retro ones. I mean, Bardown Beauties, guys, I'll be checking my mailbox after. Like I said, if you haven't figured out, I love free things. So feel free to send that my way. It'd be a great Christmas gift to myself. So get that going. A lot of other NHL news too. I mean, finally, kind of the same every week, right? Though it's like there's news and then it's kind of not news. So I mean, really, again, we'll preface it with nothing has changed. They technically are still set on the January 1st date, which again looks bleaker and bleaker given the circumstance that they haven't agreed on any plans to return. The training camp hasn't started. Bill Guerin had spoke with media yesterday saying that there are about 8 players, including Jared Spurgeon and a couple other guys that live here locally that have been skating at Tria together. They are allowed. I know a couple other guys. I've heard Zach Parise's out at Braemar and other rinks that are allowing some of those guys to do that. So, I mean, obviously they're still practicing, but nothing has been set moving forward. We're still kind of like, what happens? Pierre LeBrun had said he'd be shocked if January, as I think we all would be, right? I mean, Alexis, what do you do you think January still is feasible? I mean, you could get training camp going next week, if you get everybody here, right?
Yeah, it's tough. And for some reason, the news that came out this week about their conversations made me feel like something is happening, whereas before it just kind of seemed like, we don't know, here's 50 options and they're all still very possible. Like, that's kind of what it's felt like every week leading up until now. And for some reason this week, after the stuff that came out, seeing all of that stuff, I'm like, I feel like there's progress being made. It's just not being shown to the general public right now.
Right.
Again, they're still aiming for that January 1st. I think they're saying they want to try to start playing games by the 15th of January. So training camp would start on the 1st, and then games would be following 2 weeks after that. They want to try to wrap up the season, regular season in May, and playoffs being done by no later than the beginning of July. And it looks like right now the amount of games that they're aiming for is in the 50s, 52, like 54, 56.
Yeah, I think NHL would like 56, and the players, I think, have brought 52 and 54 to the table as well.
Yeah. Well, and the tough thing with the NHL is you've got, and with any big league like this, you've got players who are overseas. You've got players who've been living back in their home countries. You've got players who are practicing elsewhere, who are doing whatever. It's not like, say, high school hockey where everyone's here. You can tell them, hey, come to practice tomorrow, and it is what it is. Like, there has to be more extensive planning to even get the players together as a group to start doing stuff. So it's making me a little nervous that it's December 4th that you guys are listening to this on the 7th, 8th, 9th, whatever day you're listening to it. And they want to start games they want to start games in a month. And I'm like, I feel like you need to start giving us more info. So I don't know. It seems like things are happening, but at the same time, they're not really telling us for sure if things are happening or not. So I don't know.
Here comes Jesse's great segue. That should be like a nice little speaking of getting players here, Kirill Kaprizov is here stateside. Yay. So guys, he's in the vicinity. He's here. He's ready to go.
Out.
Yeah. Like it's happening. It's actually happening. Yeah. So that's exciting. And again, I think you'll see more of that as guys start to they're getting antsy. And again, the holdup is just the conversation about the split with the ownership, and naturally the players want their cut, and then there's the escrow, and it comes down to money. And of course the owners say, hey, you don't have a right to this. You guys have, we've lost millions. We've hemorrhaged money on not having fans. Again, we'll say it every week. The NHL is such a gate driven sport business, and to have lost all that, I mean, not that the owners are hurting like you and I, Alexis, without work and without jobs, but
I mean, world's smallest violin, here it is.
So I mean, again, that's kind of the holdup. So we'll just keep checking in and seeing where things are at. Obviously we're hoping for things to keep moving forward.
Can I steal your segue, Swagger, really quick? Because this is a great time to talk. Oh, I'm going to anyway, but thank you for denying me the opportunity. They've been talking this week, and maybe this is why I'm feeling like things are happening about outdoor games for next season. And a big reason that a lot of teams want to try to do that is because that's a way to get fans in the stands. Mm-hmm. And because there's such a gate-driven league, even having a few games over the course of a season where they're playing outdoors and can have, a minimum amount of fans, that's going to do wonders for the league, as small as it might sound. So I think, hey, if what comes out of this is we get more outdoor games in 2021, I'm on board. Sign me up for that. I wish we had more outdoor games on a regular season basis. So I think that would be cool. The tough thing is not every state can do that. It's harder. It's more expensive. I think I even heard that the Canadian teams have said we're not going to do any outdoor games. So it's really just the American teams that are talking about it. Now the teams have to pay for COVID testing rather than the league. So the COVID testing is anywhere between $125 to $150 per test. Mm-hmm. So think about how many players, how many times they have to.
I was saying the frequency of doing that.
The frequency,
the staff,
that money adds up quickly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So there's still so many things that haven't been answered, or at least haven't been shared officially and publicly. But it feels like something's got to come out within, what would you say, the next 2 weeks, probably?
I mean, you hope. Me personally, not to be a pessimist about it, because obviously I'm so anxious and so eager for the NHL to return again. I mean, not only is it my livelihood, but it gives me a sense of normalcy. It's during the summer months, having it kind of in and out is fine, because I can entertain myself in other ways. I've got the kids outside and now it's winter, and I use hockey as kind of to beat that like seasonal depression that we all get in Minnesota. Right. And now it's like, oh gosh, I can't go to the rink and I'm sitting in darkness at home all the time. Yep. It's a tough situation. So not only mentally, but just in general, I just think that February looks like a more realistic start date. I think there's still so many challenges and things that they need to figure out that they all need to come together on. That's the thing. And I think I love that you can be flexible. I think the NHL is willing to be flexible. Like we've seen where, hey, let's, start one way. We don't have to finish it that way. Right.
Yep.
But I still think there are just too many logistics that you don't want to rush into it either. You don't want to rush it and say, hey, this is what we're going to do and hopefully it works. I think the NHL is a little bit smarter, more business savvy than that. So I would say February I see being more reasonable, more feasible. And that, because you're going to have a divisional realignment, right? We talked about that just in order for the Canadian teams to stay put and do their thing. You're going to have to figure out a bubble situation. You're going to have to figure out testing. You're going to have to figure out an agreement with the players too. Again, at the end of the day, they get a say in this on the return to play committee. So we'll see. Fingers continue to be crossed naturally. Hockey is kind of moving forward in other areas, as we all know. The World Junior Championships, my personal favorite tournament ever. I was turned on to this probably when I interned at USA Hockey 10 years ago. I'd obviously already known about it, but being at USA Hockey and seeing, USA Hockey put on this event and get this team together, it made it that much more exciting for me. And it's fun to watch during the Christmas time. It's really cool to see these kids go out and play. You've got all of your prospects. There are actually 4 Minnesotans, mostly defensemen, and then Minnesota Wild prospect Matt Bolden, who is having a phenomenal start.
Love.
To Boston College. Cole Caulfield's not looking as great anymore, guys.
Sorry, not sorry.
So you'll see the 4 of them. Marco Rossi was actually given approval by Bill Guerin yesterday to go compete with his Austria team for the World Junior Championship. So that's exciting for him. You'll get a chance to see him. Again, guys like Alex Ovechkin and Zach Parise have all played in this tournament. So if you've never checked it out or paid any attention, I really urge you to do that. Not to mention, what else are you going to do? It's hockey, it'll give you something, but it gives you a glimpse at future NHL superstars. And it's really, really, really good hockey.
I feel like no matter what area of hockey you claim to love, whether it's, whether you're an NHL fan, an NWHL fan, a college hockey fan, whatever it is that you choose to watch, I feel like everyone loves the World Junior Championship. That's when the whole internet comes together and it's Team USA versus Team Canada. And that's just, the whole internet gets burned to the ground. It's my favorite time of year. So I think that the awesome thing this year is that given the time that it's being played and when the NHL season is proposed to be starting, this gives some of these players an opportunity. Like someone like Rossi, who could be on the roster come opening night, gives them a chance to get some real-time hockey action, even though it's obviously going to be slightly different play than the NHL. You get that action going, you get your body moving, and you get into real game situation, and that could help. That could really be the difference maker for some of these younger guys who are maybe going to be on these opening night rosters. So we'll see what that'll do. But regardless, hockey is coming very soon, and it's going to be very good hockey to watch, and I'm very excited about it.
We'll always kind of rally and be like, rah, rah, it'll be okay. Yes. We're going to get through this.
We will.
And actually promising news too, the Minnesota State High School League, which is kind of notorious for not exactly doing things to fanfare, actually did come together yesterday with some committees and say, hey, you know what, let's go. If the shutdown can be lifted as it's supposed to be on December 18th, teams can start practicing on the 21st for hockey. And you would look at a new extended season, which would include, drum roll please, state tournament.
Yes,
yes. I mean, again, all of that is pending that things continue to move forward, things get better. It's nothing is written in stone, especially this year, as we've all come to learn. You have to be flexible, but it's exciting that they're at least considering and trying to work toward that, right? I mean, we've all been kind of questioning. I mean, the state tournament was the last hockey event that I went to. That was the last bit of hockey that I had. And, to see maybe that come back around again, the times would be different. You'd obviously look at later March. You'd have to work with the NHL, depending on what that looks like, I'm sure. So again, more logistics, but it's just nice to have that kind of put out there. Yes, let's try to say that. And, I've learned from a lot of different ways leagues have come about this. And I can't remember exactly who it was that I was speaking with, but they were saying it's easier to say, keep it close to you before you cancel the tournament, right? It's not exactly beneficial to say, no, we're not going to do it this year when it's still months out. So it's better to try to go as far as you possibly can without completely interfering with lives before canceling. So it's very exciting, very promising. Hopefully things keep trending upward or downward rather, I guess, as far as cases go.
Upward as far as positivity goes,
yes.
Emotionally.
Stay positive,
and downward
test
as
negative.
Far as test positivity goes, yes.
That's been my new email line. Like, I hope you're staying positive and testing negative. I'm like, oh my God, I'm such like a cheeseball. But yeah, so I mean, again, as long as people keep doing the right things, hopefully we'll see hockey back in the state of hockey fairly quickly. Speaking of state of hockey news too, going back to what Bill Guerin had said to local media on Thursday, a team captain, the big question that everybody has, is expected to be named before the start of training camp. So not really any much more clarity there, but maybe that could be coming soon.
It's Marcus Foligno. It's fine, Bill. You don't have to say it. We know.
I mean, fine. He makes the most sense. I love it for him.
Prove me wrong. You know that like meme that goes around the internet with the guy sitting at the stand that says like, prove me wrong.
You're going to set out your
own
stand for it.
I'm going to do one that says Marcus Foligno will be the next Minnesota Wild captain.
I love it.
There's a lot of great choices, but he's the one. So we don't need to.
Speaking of Marcus, segue.
Amazing. Every time.
Do not forget, first of all, we want to thank you to everybody who has donated to the Janice Foligno Foundation, which is in honor of Marcus's mom, who passed away a few years back due to breast cancer. So the Foligno is in her honor to raise money for cancer awareness in general, the fight against cancer, research, and helping organizations that are doing good by that. So thank you to everybody that has made a donation. We're going to keep that window open just a little bit longer. Again, remember, if you DM us a picture of your donation with your address, Marcus will send you a nice little autograph photo, and you'll be entered to win an autographed Minnesota Wild jersey and or a Minnesota Wild stick. So certainly get those DMs into us, make that donation. Any little bit helps. There's, if it's $5, it's $5. And I know he is so appreciative of everybody here for participating. So thank you to anybody that has, and thank you for everybody that has at least given it a look. And, it's a nice Christmas gift to him and to yourself. If you win that jersey, that's a great Christmas gift. So keep that in mind as well. So, and
now we will head to our favorite, or at least my favorite part of the show, where we get to argue with each other. Although we don't really argue, we just I would call it bantering, right? Some people on our Twitter argue, but we banter. We like
to keep it interesting. Like I said, even if we have the same opinions, I'll go to bat for somebody else.
We'll play devil's advocate. That's fine. Yeah,
exactly.
So our up for debate topic this week is best American-born Minnesota Wild forward of all time, which it took us a while to narrow this down to like a good enough topic that was like not
something
too broad.
Just something
we started with like
too.
Big picture, and then we're like, how about a little bit smaller? And then we're like, okay, how about a little bit smaller than that? And this is what we ended up on. And if I remember correctly, Jesse, the people you threw down for that,
Zach Parise, Jason Zucker, and Brian Rolston.
Yes.
So three very different players, different time periods, from different parts of the U.S.
Yep.
And actually, I will say, I probably meant to say your favorite, not necessarily the best, because the stats kind of lean very heavy toward Mr. Zach Parise without question. So I kind of screwed up there, guys. I'm sorry. I should have said your favorite American-born Minnesota Wild player, but we didn't. So
we said what we said, and we're going to roll with it. Yeah,
roll with it. Rightfully so. Zach Parise led the way with the best Minnesota Wild American-born player. It leads Minnesota-born players alone in goals and points and all of that good stuff. So no question.
Yeah.
Stats wise, he is the best. Alexis, would you agree with that? Or did you have a player that you thought was the best?
Yeah. I mean, stats wise, Parise, he's the third all time in points for forwards for the Wild. Koivu and Gabrick are the only two ahead of him, which are obviously fantastic names that came through the Wild organization. So he's up there with good names. As you said, he's pretty high up on a lot of stats across the NHL for American-born players in general. So it's kind of hard to argue statistically that he was the best. Right behind him then was Jason Zucker and Charlie Coyle, the BFFs, right there next to each other on the stat sheet. So I would say that if I think there's three different ways you can look at this. You can go stats, which is obviously Zach Parise, because those stats really are unarguable. If you want to go for most fun to watch, I would argue maybe someone like Jason Zucker. I think he was a pretty spicy, pretty exciting guy. I mean, he was fast, so you knew when he got on the ice he was going to do something. He had a good, feisty personality on the ice, too. He's chirping guys and whatnot. Zach Parise's not really a chirper. He gets out there, gets the job done, and goes back to the bench, right? So, I mean, I would say for fun aspect, Jason Zucker's probably my top choice.
See, I would say fun is Brian Rolston. Anybody that wants to get up in a shootout and do a slap shot every time, will always forever. And he was like my favorite growing up. Again, that was kind of my generation, right? The little flavor saver. I mean, everything about him was just epic. Like he's just a legend.
Chef's kiss. Yes. And that's what I was going to say was, if you want to go with favorite, Brian Rolston was my favorite Wild player who was not Nicholas Backstrom growing up. He was the first Wild jersey that I owned with the name on the back. I absolutely loved him. And I'm sure anyone who knows me or has listened to this podcast long enough and has now come to know me through this podcast, I like the players who are doing spicy, crazy, wild things on the ice. I don't want a vanilla, hockey player. I want the guy who's doing slap shots in the shootout.
You don't want any of the Minnesota Wild players. No.
Maybe that's a different story. That's a different debate. But so Brian Rolston was just one of my favorite players growing up because I just absolutely loved the way he played. I loved his feistiness. I loved his no care attitude when it came to taking those slap shots. There's one of my favorite videos that still circulates on Twitter from time to time is when the Wild were playing, I think it was Vancouver. And this was when Alain Vigneault was the head coach of Vancouver. And I don't know if it was a shootout or a penalty shot, but Brian Rolston goes up to the dot to take the shot. And they go to Luongo's face and he looks like he's crapping his pants. You go to Vigneault's face and he just has like the look on his face like he just knows Luongo's about to get lit up. And everyone knows Rolston's going to take a slap shot.
I mean, every goalie knew that's what was coming, right? Like it's kind of like every pitcher knows that Joe Mauer doesn't swing on the first pitch, right? Like it was one of those things that was their thing. You know that, like, he's going to take a slap shot. God damn it, he's going to take a slap. Because it's like, you're not supposed to do that. And he does, it was like, it just made it more fun. And that was when shootouts were just so rare and penalty shot, it was more of those things too. It wasn't the same as it is now where that's how a game is decided. He was my favorite. And I think it was probably because that was my mom's favorite before she fell in love with Mikko Koivu, who was her all-time favorite. Brian Rolston.
And you want to talk about New Jersey Devils who came to the Minnesota Wild. You've got Brian Rolston and Zach Parise. So maybe we do a debate of best former Devil who came and became a Wild player. Yeah. And just have Zach Parise go up against Rolston. Yeah.
Are there others? Or we just have the two? Now I'm like,
those are probably some of the best. I don't, if there is others, maybe smaller name players, but
forever.
So sorry, the debate was statistic wise can't argue Zach Parise, but if you have a favorite, that one can be argued. And
there are others too. I mean, there are certainly, like, right now it's a very American heavy team, or at least it was last season. I know there have been a couple changes. Obviously, I keep forgetting that this is a totally new roster this year. Like.
And we even had some former Buttes on, who are kind of up there as far as American-born. Richard Park, Wes Walls are right next to each other, kind of when you look at the stats. And, all time, I think the top, I would say maybe the top 20 to 30 forwards all time for the Wild. There's maybe only 8 or 9 Americans in there. So you kind of take them out of that bigger group and narrow them together. Richard Park, Wes Walls up there, obviously some players from the glory days who are former Buttes.
Isn't he?
Mark Parrish. I'm so sorry.
I was like,
thank you.
That doesn't sound right. You're welcome.
Also, I was like,
former
Buttes. I had the former Buttes part.
You know my obsession with American-born hockey.
Thank you.
That's like the one thing.
Should have stopped me sooner. I was rambling.
I need to find, if anybody knows where there's a hockey trivia where they want to talk about U.S.-born players, I'm in.
Jesse
I know
light
so
all of
much.
You up. Yeah. You don't even stand a chance. I'd recommend not even trying if I were you.
And you want to go deeper. Minnesota players, I know everything.
Yeah. From every level too. Don't even try her.
Gross. Yeah, exactly.
So that was our up for debate topic for the week. And we'll get something good going for next week too. I love coming up with these. I'm like, who can we make angry this week? What kind of topic can get people riled up?
And some of them are hard, like we had talked about, Minnesota Wild forwards. It's like, well, how do you break that up? Because you can't select just 3, right?
Because we were like, we could go by generation, or we could go. I suggested either doing centers and then at a different point doing wingers. And then we came up with the idea to do American-born, which that's fun because obviously most of our listeners are American, so that gives people something to talk about.
Shout out to the non-Americans, though. We love you. Shout out to
we see you. We see you. We see you and love you. That's our up for debate topic for the week, and we've got an awesome guest lined up, Blake Bolden, and she'll be with us right after the break.
Stay tuned.
We've given our Teespring store a fresh new look, custom designed to rep and support the Buttes. We've got hockey hoodies and tees perfect for lounging and rewatching your favorite Wild game. Grab a mask, grab a tee, and be a Butte with our official Bardown Beauties Teespring store.
We're back. Joining us now, the ever-amazing, trailblazing, badass woman shattering glass ceilings all over the place, currently as a scout for the Los Angeles Kings, Miss Blake Bolden. Blake, how you doing today?
Oh man, that was a great intro. I'm good. I'm good. How are you guys?
We're good. That's my favorite thing. We got to hype our guests. Like, we're so excited to have you on. I mean every single one of those adjectives plus another 10 that I'm sure we could tack on there. I mean, what's been going on? Tell us about your current position right now with the LA Kings. It's a new position, but obviously a strange time to come into sports or have any new career. What's going on there for you?
Yeah, well, in January 2020, I started off scouting the AHL for the Los Angeles Kings, as you mentioned. I was getting my feet wet. I was traveling to games. I was feeling pretty comfortable. And then boom, coronavirus just stopped the whole world. And it was pretty crappy. I was like, dang, I was really feeling it. The pause happened. I was still kind of just learning the systems, learning the language that the Los Angeles Kings want and need. And it was just fun actually to have that time because I was mid-season. And then I guess a couple of months ago, I became the growth and inclusion specialist with the Los Angeles Kings. And that was something that we had been planning as I arrived as a scout, and that is basically to diversify the sport of ice hockey in Los Angeles, which is in my opinion, the most diverse cities in the world, maybe.
Heck yeah. No, I think it's a perfect spot to do that, right? Especially the way that in Los Angeles, it's starting to embrace hockey again, right? I mean, it's California hockey has always been a little different. So to add that diversity in there too, as we're growing the game together and trying to make it more inclusive, I think you're the perfect person to do such a thing.
Appreciate it. It's been fun. It's been really fun. We have a lot of initiatives that we're planning out. Obviously, still with COVID, things have been taken aback because we can't have that face-to-face interaction with the youth. But we're making plans and we're ready to go. Whenever we're clear to go, we're ready to go.
We're all like waiting with bated breath, right, guys? Like, when will hockey come back and some normalcy return for us?
Yeah, was this the role that you're in now, was this something you envisioned trying to get to do someday, even just working, behind the scenes of hockey as well after being a hockey player and getting to have this experience, now getting to do this as well? Was this something you saw yourself doing ever?
Oh, yeah. I remember waking up in the middle of a hotel room when I was playing back in the CWHL, and I was just like, I need to be in the sport more. Like, I can't just be a player. I'm passionate about this because as a little girl, I was growing up and I felt very isolated or as if I was an outlier. And I just wanted to somehow find a way to bridge that gap and to say, hey, listen, this might be something that is unorthodox for you and your community, but it is doable. And we want to give you the resources to figure out how to play because it's so fun. We all love it, right? And it's just such an amazing sport, and I just want to share that with as many people as possible.
You started getting into hockey because your dad was working behind the scenes in hockey, right? Tell us about what made you really want to jump in and say, hey, I can do this. Let me play. Let's go here.
Oh, man, it's such a fun emotion that I feel every time I talk about it because it's serendipitous, right? Like if I hadn't had interacted with him or my mom never met him to date him to then have him bring me to the games, I would have never even probably known what hockey was, let alone thought to play it. So for me, it's so special because, like I say again, like I want to bridge that gap because I wouldn't have been able to play. It was amazing. I mean, he worked behind the scenes. He was in security in the IHL for the Cleveland Lumberjacks, and I would just go and like hang out. I would be able to go in the locker room when that was okay back in the day. I would be up in boxes, and I would just have it was like a huge jungle gym, the Gund Arena, which is a massive place for a little kid to just be roaming around with a media tag on her neck. So,
you got to see all the good stuff. You got the best experience.
It was so fun, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I need to I don't know how to do what they're doing out there, but I got to figure it out.
Well, it seems like you did figure it out because you make it to the professional leagues. You play in the CWHL, you win the Clarkson Cup, then you go to the Boston Pride in the NWHL, you win the Isabel Cup, first woman of color drafted in the first round in the CWHL, and then to go play in the NWHL. I mean, that's got to be that sequence of events for you has got to be something that you still look back on to this day, right?
Yeah, I mean, being able to be a champion in any league or for any amount of time, and let alone back to back, is something that you, as an athlete, as a person, you're like chasing that all the time. You're like, I want to win, I want to win, I want to win. It was so amazing and groundbreaking. Women's hockey has come so far, and we're still pushing for every little crumb that we can get, and we deserve it. And it's just amazing to be a part of that growth and to share those experiences with my teammates.
You know, you talked about you're not only helping grow like women's hockey, but the diversity in hockey as a female athlete, as a Black female athlete, more than anything. I mean, what was it like growing up and being a Black female, especially when it is such a white male dominated sport, right? I mean, did you ever have any instances where you were met with racism, and how did you overcome some of that? And how important were family and teammates to help you engage, get over some of those challenges?
Yeah, it was challenging. Just even walking into a rink and realizing that you're in a place that people are just staring at you because, one, you're a girl, and two, you're Black. So I had like this double whammy, and I luckily had my mom who was just like, don't look at her, don't talk to her, like, don't say anything stupid.
Mama knows, right? She's gonna step in for her baby.
Down your throat. Yeah. So I had that as like my support. My dad, obviously, who got me into the sport. But yeah, there was crazy things that were happening, especially in the stands when you got to like a AAA level, and there were like Tiger moms and dads, and they're upset that a girl beat up their son, or not beat up, but like beat their son.
You're better than them, yeah.
Or was more skilled than their son, or they would just say really nasty things. And if you're a parent and you're able to say nasty things to a child, your child probably isn't the nicest human being on the planet either. Right. So I would really like make those connections, like, oh, that kid's with that parent. I understand
that
why
makes
they're
sense.
saying what they're saying to me on the ice. So after a while, like once I gained the respect of my guys, they were like, don't mess with her. Like she's one of us. So that made me feel really special. But all of that just takes time, and to just realize that is nothing to do with you. It's just their problem.
Right. Well, especially when you have the skill to back it up, right? I mean, you were dominating some of these guys. You went from, I loved, hearing you were kind of a Bambi on ice, right? Like skating was a little bit of a struggle, to going and winning all these accolades that Alexis had mentioned. I mean, Blake Bolden has become just this name synonymous with being awesome. I think I couldn't say it any differently.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of work. It takes practice. I remember going to Sunday power skating when I first started to play, because if you can't skate, you can't do anything else on the ice. So that's like
what's holding me back from playing hockey all the time. So,
yeah.
I was like, you better be a good skater and learn how to stop on that left side, girl. Figure it out.
Did you find that, nowadays, I feel like hockey and women's hockey in general has just come so far, even in the last 15, 20 years, let alone the last 5 years or so. And nowadays there's, the girls are playing with the girls, and there's camps that they can go to. There's professional women's leagues. There's all of this going on. Whereas, back when all of us were growing up, that really wasn't the case. A lot of girls like yourself were playing with the boys. We're doing whatever. We're going to camps with boys because that was the only option. Is there something to be said about growing up in that kind of environment rather than having, playing with the other girls and all of that? Was there anything you learned from that experience that has really helped you in your hockey career and your behind the scenes hockey career?
Yeah. I think there's two sides. There's a good side and there's a bad side, right? Like there's the good side where you maybe become a little bit tougher skinned. You get beat up a lot and you just got to pick yourself back up. I remember when I was playing boys hockey for the longest time, I made the switch to girls hockey when I was 14, and I went to prep school at Lake Placid, New York. I got like 3, 4, 5 penalties a game because I just like didn't know how to control my body, or like I was checking in boys hockey and I was like, this is really crazy. But then on the plus side, or to be able to play with girls, it's like you get to have that camaraderie in the locker room. I don't have to dress separately. Mm-hmm. We have things in common. We can talk about things that we're interested in. So there's great sides for both, and then challenges on both too. I think playing boys hockey, I was a little bit quicker in my decisions, and just maybe stronger too. So yeah, I think those things all play out. But I think now girls hockey is becoming very elite. So back when I was playing, girls hockey was good. Mm-hmm. It was okay. I had to play on like 19U when I was 12 if I wanted to play at like an elite level. But now, I mean, there's AAA, Middle East, like Midwest hockey is just booming. Minnesota hockey is unbelievable. So there's really great girls hockey.
Absolutely. You know, a lot of times females in general, when they're doing all these phenomenal things and breaking these ceilings and doing all this, you don't really realize you're doing it, right? Like you're certainly not setting out to be this trailblazer pioneer. I mean, when did you kind of recognize, oh my gosh, wow, you're right, I have kind of broken through these walls? Was there a moment that you kind of had to stop and take a second just to kind of take it all in?
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely a couple of moments. One moment, I was in the CWHL and a family came to visit me to watch me play, and they were a beautiful young Canadian Black family, and their little girls played hockey, and I was like, you know, they had a sign that had my name on it. I mean, it was the CWHL. I'm American. So coming into Canada and someone driving hours to see me when I have Megan Duggan and Brianna Decker and amazing, amazing athletes on my team, I was like, oh, I think something's shifting right now. And then from there, I just really wanted to open myself up to these young girls and say, hey, listen, like, talk to me, ask me questions. I'm here to support you if you need that. And that was when I was like, okay, I think this is where my passions are moving towards, or where my fulfillment or purpose is.
You're making an impact. I know there's a family here in Minnesota who is part of a diversity inclusion group that I've sat in on, and you're the little girl's role model. They just love Blake Bolden. They want to go to BC, you know, and they want to do all, like, kind of follow in your footsteps. And, you know, I know we've discussed this before, and we've discussed it with so many different people. It's that motto of, if you can see it, you can be it, right? And I think that's exactly what you get to do. They see you and they're like, hey, she looks like me, and look at all of these things that she's done. And it's just so important to be that example, and representation truly does matter.
It really does. It's so, I mean, when I was a girl, I don't know how it would have changed, you know, my perspective if I saw someone like me playing. I think I would have just been like enamored. I would be like, oh my gosh, she's doing it, I can do it. But when I was playing, it was just like, oh, one foot in front of the other. I have no idea what's going to happen. And it's just nice to have that path or blueprint where it's like, oh no, you can go in the CWHL, the NWHL, well, no longer in the CWHL. You can play overseas if you want. You can work in the NHL if you want. You know, these things are possible.
I think something that I think is so cool about you is you've got your hands in all these different avenues: racial inclusion, gender inclusion. You're working with the women's side of things, the men's side of things. You're kind of doing it all. Do you ever find it hard to balance, like, you know, where do I put my energy? How do I do all of this? How do I advance this and advance that? Is that a challenge that you ever face, or is that that's just work for you?
Well, it is challenging because I have, you know, putting different hats on. You just have to approach the conversation with, well, I don't know, you approach it how you approach it. My schedule is a little crazy, clearly, because I showed up 20 minutes late to this podcast. So sometimes my brain's a little wonky, but I think it's truly something that I love doing. And for me, if I love doing it, and I think that stands for everybody, it's easier to just show up with your best version of yourself. And people are wanting to listen right now, especially, and this is the time to share my insight and my experience.
Alexis and I are perpetually late, myself mostly, so don't even worry about it.
We will never be mad.
No, not at all.
Ask producer Fred.
I can confirm. I'm always on time. They're always late.
There's so many things. Women have pots
recordings, photo shoots, everything. Jesse and I, it's rare we get there on time, so don't worry. You're in good company, Blake.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel it. I feel good about it. You guys make me feel okay. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry.
No worries. No, again, joining us now, Blake Bolden. You know, you had mentioned you're now going to be a part of the growth and inclusion for the LA Kings. And we saw Kendall Coyne get hired with the Chicago Blackhawks in a very similar position in addition to a player development role. Do you foresee see more and more females finally being able to secure themselves in prominent roles with the NHL? I mean, we see Seattle adding women to their rapport. Do you think that's going to be a continuing trend as we move forward?
Yeah, I do. I think these clubs are actually seeing the value in having someone with a different perspective, a different background, but with that professional experience to add, right? You don't want a lot of the same thing because you're just going to get the same stuff back. You just want you want diversity, and that's what we're all talking about, is that brings and adds to the conversation. So I really truly think, and not even in the end, just in the NHL and the MLB and soccer and football and the NFL, like things are changing and we're celebrating these things and it's beautiful, but it would be so cool when we get to a point where it's just like normal, where it's just like, oh yeah, we've got that woman GM of this and that, and it's like, oh, this is normal.
Yeah, it's no different than having a male GM. Well, and it's, again, we go back to, you can do the work. It shouldn't make a difference. Like my skin color, my hair, you know, my gender identification, it doesn't make a difference. If I can get the work done, then that's what I should do. And as we all know, women get shit done. So I think that there should be no reason.
We do get ish done. Absolutely. We might be late, but we do.
Exactly.
There you go. That's the motto. You know, I got to ask Blake, I think a lot of people, when they see someone like you, they think she's done it all. What more is there to do? What more could she want to do? But there's always something to work towards, right? What is your 5-year plan? What are you working towards? What's the next goal? Or what do you want the hockey community to look like in 5 years? Not even just outside of yourself. What are you hoping to see in the next few years?
Oh man, I personally, for my goal, it's more of like a hockey universal goal of what I want to see. I want to see women's hockey being supported by the NHL financially, just having like maybe an original 6 teams where we as women athletes are paid a livable wage, because I know the grind, full time, not getting paid, full time, getting paid a little bit, and it's crazy. Like, we're putting in just as much work and we should be compensated. I think we're ready to do that once everything smooths out with
this whole pandemic thing kind of goes away. Yeah.
I would like to see players standing up for what they believe in and being less quiet. I want to empower players, female, male NHL players, to just be different. I think our sport has been a little bit cookie cutter for the last 10, 20, 50, 100 years. You know, I think we can shed light on differences and make hockey cool. You know, the NBA is so cool because they give their players a microphone to be themselves. And I think that will change our sport. And I think that will bring about new fans and new people that will be interested. And for me personally, professionally, I just, you know, I didn't wake up thinking I was going to be an NHL scout or a scout for the NHL. I woke up thinking I just want to take it one day at a time and give when I can. So I guess the trajectory of a scout would be to potentially be a GM one day.
There you go.
Or, you know, just, there's so many things. I just feel like you said, the ceiling's just like, let's just go, you know?
Yeah. Hey, having endless options is not a bad thing in this case. So I'm on board with your plan, and I'm on board with that future. So I like all of it. Sounds great to me.
I like it. Gary Bettman, awesome. Take notes. We'll connect you guys. Hopefully we can set something up, because I think it sounds great as always.
We're working on it.
We're getting there. My, one kind of final question, Blake, before we do let you go here, is any advice or words of wisdom you might impart on a young girl, whether she's white or black or Asian or indigenous or anything, that maybe is facing some challenges in hockey, maybe doesn't feel like it's a sport that's welcoming her, or maybe it's a young girl who wants to be a GM and wants to follow in your footsteps. Any words of advice that you'd like to give them?
Wow, that's powerful. I guess I would say, for someone who's feeling like they're not the most confident, I would say I would try to find her people or your person or your group that will give you the support that you need to, like I said, be your individual self. I think for me, when I was growing up, I was conforming a lot. I was straightening my hair to look more like, presentable to my white counterparts. I was doing and acting the way I thought I should do things and act. And I think you got to figure out who you are inside, and you got to be true to that, and you got to be proud of yourself, and gentle with your thoughts sometimes when they can be negative, because we live in a world where we're not perfect, we're humans. So I would just say find your people, find your support system, because we want you to speak up and be comfortable in our sport, and to just be you, you know?
Heck yeah, I absolutely love that. Well, Blake, thank you again so much for taking the time. We know you're a busy, busy woman out there changing the world and growing the game of hockey in LA. We look forward to having you back on once hockey resumes here, hopefully, and we can catch up on some of those initiatives in LA.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks so much for having me. Thanks for being patient.
Absolutely.
No, we appreciate you. Thank you. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, this is producer Fred. I just wanted to make sure everyone is out there subscribing, liking, sharing, rating. Anything you can to help grow the Beauts would be amazing. I want you to tell your hockey coach. I want you to tell your grandma. I want to tell your friends, everybody. And by the way, check out our merch. Buy our merch. Bye.
Thanks again to Blake. She's so amazing. I truly, I've learned something about myself, and I've always kind of known it, but I want to make an impact in hockey, and I would love to do stuff like that. I'm trying to figure out new ways that I can truly, I think our podcast is trying to do that. Yeah. Certainly not to the levels of the amazingness that Blake's doing and other folks like her, but I think it is so important because I truly believe in making the sport for everybody.
Yeah, and I mean, you could tell just the way she held herself, the way she answered questions, so humble, aware of what she's doing, but very humble about it. Just such a nice person. I mean, seriously, you talked about the girl who said she was her role model. Perfect role model to have. I don't care who you are. If you're a hockey fan, even if you just want to know how to be a
guy,
good person.
Girl, whatever, literally. Too. Yeah.
Seriously, follow in her footsteps because she is doing the right things, and I'm really excited to see what she does in the future as well. Just an amazing human being. So
absolutely, shameless plug, but she was on the cover of USA Hockey Magazine this last month, a story that I wrote. But there's a lot more insight because there's more to her story than we were able to share on our podcast. So definitely go give that a look because it's not only very well written, but it's a great insight. I mean, I think one thing that stuck out to me in the course of that interview and writing that story was how she talked about she used to rush and put her helmet on so fast when she was in the locker room because she wanted to hide the fact that she was a girl and she wanted to hide the fact that she was Black because that's, unfortunate. And she's not that old. She's about our age. So it's not like this is something years and years past, she was still feeling that kind of pressure and uncomfortableness, when she was a kid, and nobody wants a kid to feel that way. Again, you go back, it's a kid at that point. So what she's doing is tremendous. Again, I think she's right. LA is such a diverse community and diverse city. So I think it'll really thrive there. You'll get more fans into the game, more players into the game, more coaches, officials, everything. So keep kicking ass, Blake. We appreciate it. That's going to do it for this week's episode. That was a lot. You guys made it this far. Congratulations. We're really thankful and proud of you. So we're going to put a seal on this week's episode. No Dear Diary with Alexis. That'll be back again in full swing next week. Alexis ran out of all her chirps on Calgary.
I gotta go through and check, see what I missed. Yeah, I can just start making some up. I'm sure I can dig something up.
We had talked about doing a current, an up to date one once hockey returns.
Once hockey starts, let us know if you guys want that. Do you want an adult version? Alexis 15 years later.
Yeah, exactly.
Still angry.
All right, that'll do it. Thanks again to everybody for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, give us some love. Be on the lookout for those Soda Stick jerseys, the Bardown Beauty jerseys. Woo woo. That'll be available coming this week, as well as our Teespring line. We've got that new 10,000 Beauts merch line that Alexis put together. It looks awesome. So be sure to get that. And thanks again to everybody for the constant support and love. We appreciate you. Have a good one. Near.